Hello, cousins. Welcome to SASS Mass, our spirituality and support symposium. Think morning witchy chats around a warm campfire. The recording has started, and by participating in SASS, you agree to read and accept the terms of engagement, which we'll post in the chat. We ask that you mute during the recording for clarity during the meeting and for the afterplay. We'll now get started with a few announcements.
Oh, hello. I forgot us. Like I do that. Sorry. Um,
I was ready. I was waiting. I'm like, okay, is it me or is it Maria? Go team. Woo.
oh, thanks, Ocean. Yeah, I was trying to pull it up on my computer and then I just like forgot that I was supposed to do something. So, hi everyone. Welcome to SASS Mass. It's Sunday. So, we just started a new month, which means for members of the Foundations program, we have a new workbook posted with a new journal prompt. We already had one sacred space meeting, which is where we dig into the shadow work and the journal prompts. We have another sacred space meeting, two sacred space meeting offerings on the 7th of every month. And all our meetings, if you're new, are posted on our calendar, which is on the website. All our meetings are pretty much recurring at the same times and days every month. And pretty much for those of you in foundations, those main kind of meetings are going to be Sacred Space and Witchwork Circle. We do have a special offering that is open to everyone coming up in June, which is our Rituals and Revelry. I say that slowly, otherwise I can't say it. And so we have that coming up, and that is on our website. From the main drop-down menu, you can pop under retreats, and I'm just doing that right now to make sure I have the dates correct, which is June 14th. It begins at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it's going to run through June 16th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that means on the 15th, it's pretty much going to be like an all day thing with multiple times. There's going to be breaks in between. But so you're going to kind of have the 3 days of witchery. This is the Midnight Sun edition. And so we have Jemarie, Wit, Acacia, and Kim popping into Alaska to be together to bring to your virtual space wherever you watch Zoom from, whether that your home or another sacred space that you like to go to. So they're going to bring the action to you so you can have a staycation style retreat. There is a special like workbook for that and things that they do, a little scavenger hunt situation. And so those that sign up will get those things emailed over to you. Yeah, so that's coming up June 14th to the 16th. We're also getting ready for the Autumnal Convergence, which is our only in-person event this year. And that's going to be in Oregon. We've kind of been chatting about it. So if you want more information, certainly hit us up. Tickets and lodging are on the website. We don't have it. It's not open to the public. It's only open to members. So everything is posted in the members area. If you just scroll down, when you go into the members area, you'll see tons of information about the autumnal convergence. And you all can hit us up on the website. If you have a question, you can click on the chat and we'll answer your questions. Or you can email support@brightanddark.org. The support team behind the scenes has like a lot going on. We are, as you know, we're getting the app ready for everybody. It's going to be really exciting and we can't wait to launch it. But because we've had a couple of different apps in the past, we like know that we want to have it at a certain place before we invite you in. So it's like ready for you. We feel comfortable in the space. Everything's working to the best of our ability. And then when y'all get in there, we'll definitely be excited for your feedback as well. So that's going on. And yeah, we've got some other things in the works, all to create this community space. And that's really going to be the focus for really the next long haul here. I mean, it's always been the focus, but like now we're like neurodivergently hyper focused on it. To bring like some more community, to call those that might be seeking, that are in kind of alignment with what we're doing. So yeah, buckle up. Thank you. Jemmarie, over to you.
Hi guys. So fun thing. My guides are pinging me super fucking hard about about I'm struggling with words right now. Basically, what we're doing here in these virtual spaces is fucking sacred. Like it is. For so many of us, we are isolated in our worlds, right? And having somewhere to go that we feel safe enough to be our like authentic selves and share our experience is precious. And I am dedicating myself to taking steps to ensure that we are treating it that way, right? And one of those things is to start encouraging you guys to do kind of like a wipe your feet ritual before joining into these spaces. And when we get into the app, it's going to be a part of that experience too. It is basically just a practice of at least taking 3 deep breaths and doing some kind of incantation or some kind of dedication where you're bringing your attention present before you engage in these virtual spaces. It is treating this space as if it were an astral temple, because that's what it is. That's what we're doing. And it's fucking revolutionary that we get to do this in this way. So I'm going to make it fucking weird and go through that right now, and then we'll like dive into our conversation, right? So let's start by taking those 3 deep breaths and focus your attention on the physical sensation of yourself breathing so that it brings your attention present. And then I have this little incantation you can follow along, or you can like just, you know, receive it if you want it. Hand on your heart. Take a deep breath. I choose now in this moment to align with my whole self, to pull the book that tells my story from its place upon the shelf. I enter now this circle made of trust and hope and power, and I show up for my practice in this place and at this hour. All right, here we are. Doesn't that feel cozier? I actually, so for those of you that are new, I'm just getting the conversation going. Like if anyone at any moment, like Isabel right here, has something they want to like say, or you're feeling inspired to like engage in some way, you can at any moment. So go ahead, Isabel, if you want to jump in there.
Thank you. And it quickly, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask a question. So I haven't mentally been here, too much going on with me right now, but oh, before I forget, I just wanted to thank everybody for all your kind words and support. And then secondly, so the sacred space, I don't know, did I miss something? I always thought it was on the 7th. So apparently, did we have one yesterday? And why on the 1st? So I'm just lost. And I thought, like, what have I been? I know I haven't been gone, but mentally I have. So if I can just get some clarification on that. Thank you.
Sure.
That was it.
Yeah, so when we made the switch to stop recording the sacred space meetings, we added 2 more meeting times. So we have a meeting on the first Saturday of every month, and that just happened to fall on the first yesterday. So that one is on the first Saturday of every month. So the days will shift depending on the first whenever the first Saturday falls. And WIT facilitates that meeting, and then whoever else joins in with WIT as well. And then we'd have the 2 meeting times on the 7th, and the all the sacred space meetings. If you ever need confirmation, you can go to the website. From the main drop down menu, you'll see the calendar, and all the meetings and the time zones are posted there.
So I did check the calendar, but I didn't see yesterday's, and that's why I was confused.
Yeah, it
So I
should
don't
be.
know
I
if
can
I
definitely
didn't
double
see it.
check. It should be on there, but we can it's like a recurring meeting, but I can double check that.
Okay, maybe it was just me not looking for the right thing, but thank you for that. Okay,
You're
that was it.
welcome.
Thank you.
Sure. Renee.
Hold on, one thing. The cool thing about the app, guys, is that you're going to get notifications when the meetings happen. Not only that, but you're going to be able to see who's in the meeting. Just like, oh, there's a meeting going on, and I could just click this little button and it'll take me right into the meeting. So there's no more like chasing after links, or no more like, is there a meeting right now or not? It'll send you a notification. So, oh my gosh, this is so great. All right, go ahead.
Okay. I'm excited about that for sure. So one thing I wanted to say, when Jen Marie was talking about kind of wiping your feet, I really appreciate the ceremonial oils with the rollerball, and I keep a few of them around in my main living area. And if I need like a little refresh, like a little magical refresh, they're right there. It's so easy. It feels so good. And so I kind of feel like sorry, I'm trying to break that habit. I kind of feel like I'm constantly provided with the tools that I actually need. So I just wanted to give everyone that works on that a big thank you. Because they really are like a magical pick me up, through the day. And then my other thing, stay with me because this might sound a little out there. Is, can you feel your brain waves change? And the reason I say that is, oh, there goes Jen Marie having a little refresh. So like when we do, like when Jen Marie was just doing the, again, kind of the feet wiping thing, I feel like I'm falling into like a trance state, like a hypnotic state, in the best way. But I can actually, like, I know it sounds super goofy to say this, but like you can feel your brain shit. Like I'm trying to pay attention to body stuff, because I think I've told everyone I'm not great with, like, my body just sloshes my brain around in it, like I'm trying to get more connected to it. But that is one thing I actually can feel in my whole system, is like that shift that happens when you go into different kind of states of consciousness, I guess. So it definitely feels like there's a magical state but I'm wondering I'm wondering if anyone knows the science behind it, and if you're in like some certain like brainwave pattern, because I know there's different like alphas and betas and theta. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there as, just something to maybe think about, that I'm curious. It's another one of my little things I just get curious about, but that is all. And yes, I wanted to say, easier than lighting incense, and a little more low key, but yeah, the roller balls are the best. So and I'm gonna mute myself now.
Taryn, you can go ahead.
Okay. I was just thinking about that. I don't know that if I quite got what you were saying about the brain waves, but I mean, like, I notice it when I'm truly going into that state. I don't know that necessarily actually feel my brain waves, but only recently now, like, I'm aware of it, and like I know when I've gotten to where I'm supposed to be. If that makes sense.
Oh, sorry. I cut in line. Steph.
On the brainwave thing, I don't know a ton of the science behind it, but I think beta is what you're possibly thinking of and dropping into. And I know that we went to a Museum of Discovery kids science, hands-on museum, my husband and I one time, and he is very competitive and I'm not. And I've been meditating for 25 years. And so I can link into chills and peace mode very I know where that little thin layer is. And so you could put these little helmets on and then play this foosball game. And when you dropped into beta mode, you would move this disc and you competed against each other to move the disc back and forth like a air hockey kind of thing. And so I could move it across the table and beat him in this competitive mode because I could drop into beta instantly. And he was getting more and more agitated and pissed off because he's so competitive, which was amping him up into alpha, I guess, is what that mode is. And so beta, I think, is what the mode is. And while I'm talking, from last week's 3 weeks ago, 5 years ago, whenever that was, I took your advice, Maria, on the rabbit hole of the dark masculine, and I found Sabrina Rewilding, who I watch on Instagram and like her content there, but I found some stuff that she did on YouTube. I don't know if anybody watches her, but I think she's really good. And she had a piece on it that was awesome and took me to places that made me feel very settled in what I think and believe and feel, and am in tune with, I think, what I was thinking and needing as far as that goes. In my mind, the dark is not the same as the shadow. And I think the dark masculine for me is consciousness and piercing consciousness, and consciousness piercing deeper into the unconscious and psyche and psychic and that kind of stuff for me in a Jungian kind of way, whereas shadow is more of the repressed and unallowed and the stuff that we have to hide. And that's not necessarily dark, but just more. So I mean, I definitely still have a ton of shadow shit to deal with, but dark and shadow kind of different. And so I think, I don't know, there's stuff there in the dark that is separate from the shadow that I'm being called to, and am clearing the path, I think. So update on all that. That is all.
Thank you.
Stephanie? Maria?
Maria, me? Thank you. Um, the brainwaves thing first, sorry, I was trying to talk like Renee, I was like trying to find your, so I could talk to you. I was trying to find your square. There you are. So I'm not neurodivergent. So, Renee, when when I went to psychic school in the 90s, uh I went to I went to a tea room to learn tarot cards and other things. Shout out to Regina Russell's tea room in Quincy, Massachusetts. Um, and so the teacher that I had there, when we would do like our little meditative kind of like before tarot readings, she would always say we go into the alpha state. And so although like I'm certainly not an expert on brainwaves, but I probably Googled them like different times because I do find it super interesting. So I did kind of look up alpha, and it says it's a medium frequency pattern of brain activity associated with restful and meditative states. Um, and although I don't really like use that terminology because I'm like, so when I do kind of, I just call it like dropping in, before I may engage. I've always done it before, like reading tarots for others. Um, I don't know why I don't do it more when I read for myself. That's an interesting note to make for me. Um, so it's like I'm kind of like dropping in, and so like for me, how I would get there, I would kind of do like a countdown, and um I visualize, I walk up this rounds, I do a countdown like an old movie theater, and then I visualize walking up a staircase, and at the top there's an angel statue, and I light a candle, and that means I'm open for business. And so even though I receive messages all the time from all sorts of things, that when I'm specifically like wanting to maybe read for someone else, that means like to like their guides that like I'm available, and like feel free to, to chat. And so I always called it as like dropping into alpha, but I'm like, how do I really know that's alpha? Like I don't, right? I really don't. But it is a feeling that I get, and it just, for me, it's like I kind of, in a way, I guess I'm quieting out a lot of the mundane and just like kind of focusing in on really receiving those messages. And for me, it's just an inner feeling that I get, and I know that I'm in that space. And then when I'm done, like with the reading, I kind of blow out the candle. And this is all in my mind. And so, which is interesting here too, like coming into Bright and Dark, because we start and end our meetings with candles, but with lighting and then blowing out the candle. So, I think there's definitely like tons to like research, but for me, it was all like the way that I learned was kind of like that alpha state. Um, and then obviously there's lots to that too with like dreaming and when you're sleeping and all that too. And yeah, there is someone I follow, and I think someone mentioned it in the chat, with someone that like does brain scans. So like they hook up the EEG, and like I think that's really cool too to watch. So that's kind of my experience with it. And it's just like kind of like more of an energetic feeling that I get. Um yeah. And Stephanie, thank you for the update. I love like I love the follow-ups and the updates, and I think that's like super cool. And I'm so interested to see kind of like where that goes for you, and like how you follow it. And there's so much specifically on right now, like if you're on the TikTok, um, about different discussions, and not just like just about like light and dark, and how those like terms kind of get used, and like kind of the origins of them. And I think like it's really interesting because a lot of witches like talk about that and use that, and where we're like in an kind of in a space of deconstruction, how so much of dark got related to like bad or negative, and light gets related to good and positive, and really light and dark are just light and dark, you know, and attaching like it's just interesting the conversations like how we attach morality to sometimes things like that. I just love talking about it. I love thinking about it. And as we're also like deconstructing a lot of things, and like not to you know, say that anyone's intentionally doing this, but to like a lot of the light and dark stuff is rooted in racism. And so like I certainly went down that rabbit hole, and that was like super eye-opening for me. So I just mentioned that because that's kind of where I'm at, like where my brain is at when I think about that. But Stephanie, I loved yeah, I just love the follow-up and kind of how like deeper that got for you, like that exploration got for you. And yay, Stephanie with an F.
Yeah, I was gonna say Steph with an F is often how I'm like differentiated when we have a couple of Stephanies. I just kind of wanted to share a resource and back you up a little bit, Maria, on what you said about that learning about the alpha waves when you were doing your psychic school. I'm going to bring this book up again because I'm slowly picking my way through it. But in The Psychic Witch by Matt Oren, I'll put it in the chat. There are a ton of meditation and visualization exercises that will help you, you know, work towards the brainwaves that would help you connect more in that way. And that's what that book is geared towards. But that also has some explanations in there about meditations and brainwaves. So I'll put that in the chat in case anybody finds that helpful. Renee, go ahead.
I actually have that book, and I think I got to the part about meditations and I was like, oh, I'm not meditating right now. Like I'm still like working my way into that. But I was gonna say, when Maria said like dropping in, like that's like almost the actual physical feeling is dropping. Like, and when they say the veil, I mean it literally feels to me like you drop through like a veil into a different, like you're in like a whole different like little pocket of universe kind of. And I forgot what else I was gonna say, so I'm gonna, but yeah, it's interesting. And it definitely does have a feeling like it, you know. And then, oh, I was gonna say, like, I'm also one of those people that is so susceptible to hypnosis. If someone's getting hypnotized on TV, like I have to be like, oh, la, 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 because I can just feel myself like sliding that way. So that's interesting too. Yeah, I don't know what any of the science is behind it, but I have been paying more attention to like my feelings, like my you know, like what physical sensations are that go along with stuff. And oh, I know what I was gonna say. Has anyone ever noticed this? Has anyone ever noticed any weird like physical changes when they are doing magic? Because one thing that'll happen to me is I call it owl eyes, and my sister gets it too, where you're like your pupil just blows up. Like look in a mirror and just check it out sometime, because my pupil will just get like humongous. Um, and then, oh, I was also gonna say, after, usually when we have our meetings, I have crazy energy. Like I feel like I could just, like I need to run around, like I get the zoomies, you know. It is, but yeah, after any of the kind of meetings, like it just gives me super crazy energy. So like I said, I'm paying more attention to like physical things that go on, but that's all. Maria.
Um, to the meditation thing, I haven't read that book yet, but it comes up, that book like comes up all the time. I probably will end up reading it at some point. But just like, because I'm someone that can't sit there, well, I can't say I can't. Uh, um, sitting, like doing a long focused meditation isn't something that like excites me. I need like 5 minutes or less, and like sometimes just I need like maybe even 30 seconds, because like it depends on where my attention, how, my brain with the attention span that day. So I just wanted to say, to drop in or to experience the brain kind of wave thing, different ones, you necessarily like, I think it's like there was a lot of stuff about meditation out there that you have to do this like long thing, or more like yoga, like sit and do the om, like all of that. And if you can do that, I think that's amazing and that's awesome. And if that's your vibe, like go for that. But you don't have to like do these long, expansive meditations. I think like the word meditation means so many things. I think you can get there like without needing to sit for like a long periods of time. So I just want to say that. And just to offer too, when I when I when I had my ritual, when I do it, I can drop in very fast from like practicing doing it, because I have I know what the feeling signature is. And so because I've been doing it for so long, so that's just something too, like the more you kind of do it, I think you can drop in, if that's like your vibe, you know. Um, choose your own adventure here at Bright and Dark. So, the, um, oh, and yes, just as you were saying, like the physical stuff, yes, for sure. To the point where if I have to fold laundry, I usually plan on doing it after Witch Work Circle, because I know I have like lots of energy. Or I'll like, if I'm in the space, like sometimes when I'm not modding, I will like listen to y'all and do the dishes, because it gives me that, like it's like that bodily doubling. But then more to your point, Renee, it is that energy that happens after ritual, which is awesome. So thank you. Gemma.
Lower hand there. Oh, I love this topic. Okay, so first of all, love that you're doing this. Renee, this is awesome. When we start paying attention to how our magic influences our physical like experience, we learn how to support ourselves through intentional rituals and ceremonies, right? And these intentional rituals and ceremonies can look like what Maria's talking about of, oh, this is a great time to clean my whole fucking house because I have energy to do it. And in fact, cleaning your house on the tail end of that energy, the energy of community and connection and all of that stuff, is an awesome fucking layer to add to your like cultivation of a relationship with your home and your lived experience. It's including your home in your like ceremonial practices like that. And that those rituals and ceremonies are going to look different for all of us, because we're all going to be like called to different things to work off our zoomies. Magical zoomies is an awesome way to describe it, because and it is something that like most of us experience this in some way. That's how we go, like that's why we get like called out on running naked in the woods under the light of a full moon and shit. We got to work off this, what we're all building up and everything. You should see us at Fall Lek. Not Fall Lek, at the autumnal convergence, right? When we all get together and do these magical like ceremonies in person, your magical zoomies are like, it's a big difference when it's in person, right? And so that's, yeah. This is fun. I love that you are exploring this. Because when we choose to support our systems instead of like trying to force our systems into a box that doesn't fit, this is how you're going to repair your relationship with your magic. And so well done. This is awesome. All right, Stephanie, your turn.
I was just going to go back to the point of meditation and mindfulness. So one of the psychological definitions of mindfulness is paying attention on purpose without judgment. And so I think as mindfulness has gotten more kind of popularized, we get this idea that meditation is like being a Zen Buddhist monk, you know, sitting on a pillow and oming for 3 hours. But the real intent, and I mean, that's one way to do it, but in my opinion, the real intent of it is bringing out the observer self, which is a part of us, and the observer witness self, witnessing your body or witnessing your thoughts or witnessing yourself talking to another human or witnessing yourself doing the dishes. It's the witnessing part. And so if you witness yourself on the mat for 3 hours, or you witness yourself doing the dishes, or you witness yourself having this crazy conversation of you fighting with a gas attendant when they overcharge you, that happens 2 days from now, you know, this chitter chatter, monkey mind, whatever, it's that witness and the observing self doing the observing that is the meditation mindfulness, and it's strengthening that observing self that is the meditation that makes your brain stronger and those neurons firing together and wiring together. And so 2 seconds of that or 3 minutes of that or 5 hours of that or all day long of that can all happen off of the mat. And so it doesn't have to be sitting, it can be running. Yeah, so like, I don't know. We've all gotten it twisted of like what it's supposed to be. And so the supposed to be part is just pulling that part out and being an observer self and witnessing. So many people say, I can't do meditation, but you are probably doing meditation a lot without knowing it. And every time you do it, you strengthen that part of yourself. And it's just the witnessing aspect, in my opinion. Jen.
I love this conversation. The meditation thing is one of the like #1 frustrating things for neurodivergent witches, because like, what do you mean quiet my brain? What the fuck? That's not gonna work, right? Because that's what we're told, that's what we hear about meditation. And we're not really told or when the whys and whats are explained to us, it's explained in this like abstract way. And we all take things very literally. And so then we end up taking these like abstract ideas literally, and that's not quite how it works. So that's one of the reasons why I have you guys focus on like the physical sensation of what you're experiencing, because for me, what meditation is it's actually embodying the truth of my existence, my like being present at this moment, because so much of what our experience is in our minds or in our internal experience is like thoughts about the future, thoughts about the past, what am I eating for breakfast, blah, 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 all the time. And it's so important for us to remember that that's not us. That is our mind. That is us like experiencing our systems communicating, but that's not us. And so when we take even just like 2-3 breaths to just, I'm here right now, the wind is blowing outside my window, I can hear the clock ticking. Anything you can do to bring your system to this present moment and not in your flows, that's what strengthens your ability to be in both the physical and the spiritual realms at the same time. That's that state of meditation, is that oneness of being. Does that make sense? So, and that's going to look different to all of us. Whatever you can do to keep you out of autopilot is what you're trying to do. Okay, get out of autopilot and bring your attention to what you're fucking doing, what you are doing. And that is a choice, because we go into autopilot when we're doing crafts and things like that. We can make that a magical experience if we keep our attention present on it, what we're doing, right? All right, Renee, go ahead.
So one of the things that one of the reasons I don't enjoy meditation as it's been presented to me is I start to disassociate hard, to where I lose like like, and I mean, like, from what I've read, that's supposed to be like the Zen state of like, but I mean, I get to the point where I don't even understand, like, I feel disconnected from myself. I feel like I don't exist. Like, I feel I completely disassociate, and I don't like it. So I any advice is welcome. I'm gonna mute.
Okay. God, this is so good. All right. So one thing that we forget as witches is we are naturally really fucking good at navigating astral planes and internal like environments. We can project ourselves into all of these places, right? When we're kids, we often experience trauma that ties that aspect into our trauma responses. And so it creates this, we can pop into an astral temple anytime we want. We dissociate, we pull out of our human experience. A lot of us that experience chronic pain do this as well, where we're just popped out of our physical body, right? Meditation for us is going to be bringing us back. We need to be both, right? If we are not both, that's not meditation. That's astral, that's projection. You're doing stuff, right? You're not in your lived experience, right? There's a time and a place for that kind of stuff. There's so much power. There's so much you can do with that. But when you're just popping out because you're dissociating from a life that is overwhelming and overstimulating to you, like it's a whole thing. So yeah, meditation is the both, being both. Go ahead.
So I wanted to ask a question to the group and Renee's question about that, because I feel you, Renee. I'm like, I can do that too. And so, and I'm always, I think we had a like conversation last week about like tethering, and something like that. And like, this was the conversation in my brain, like, well, like how many witches like have done astral projection and not come back? Like, has that ever happened? Like, why do we need the tether? Like, what is it for? These are like the conversations in my brain. And I understand too, there's like, like to like the element of like spiritual psychosis and that like thinking of kind of that stuff too, which is not what you were saying, but what I'm kind of thinking, like as you were talking, Renee, is like the purpose of having like a tether or a talisman. And so like incorporating that spell work in conjunction with this meditation. And I'm wondering, like, that's kind of my question is like, do y'all do that? Would that be beneficial? And like, could that be something that could help? Question mark.
No, I mean, I need all the advice I could get. Like, that sounds great. And if I just think about it off the top of my head, um, my dogs are like what can like make me feel normal. Like, I'm like, I love this dog so much, you know? Uh, but yeah, no, thank you, Maria. Like, I definitely need see I think we all need these conversations to figure. I mean, I need them to figure stuff out. um so I appreciate it, but yeah, it's yeah, I've never thought about that, but that definitely seems like I haven't spent much time thinking about tethers. But like you said, do you necessarily need one, or do you just need like a way to like call yourself back? I'm gonna mute, sorry.
Yeah, and it's not something like I have worked with them, but it's always been like kind of a prompted thing where it's like, when I'm connecting to above or below, and it's like, having like the string that's kind of connecting, so like connecting with it that way. But I've never really, and I've created like talismans and things like that, and like holding specific energy signatures, but it just kind of, but then there was a part of me that was questioning, like, why in like astral travel or even like meditation, like why would I need a talisman or a tether? Because I never felt like personally, like I needed one. But when you said that, like, that's what popped up for me. Like, that's what pinged for me. Like, oh, like having something like that, like would be so helpful in that case. And then, you know, like when I ask myself the question, like, why do we need a talisman or tether? Like, has someone not come back? Like, and that's when kind of led me to like, in cases of like spiritual psychosis, I think that's a place where, you know, people experiencing that is a place where you don't easily come back, you know, without a lots of support. So obviously that's like a huge spectrum of things that I've mentioned, which I often do. Um, you know, but yeah, but I think that's awesome, Renee, to kind of think about. And I wonder, like, you know, as you explore that, like incorporating that with a spell work, if yeah, how that goes.
I'll keep everyone updated, and I'm not going to get into it now, but at some point, I think I do know someone that didn't come back, and I can tell you guys about that later. It's pretty wild.
Let's see. I think Jen Lee is next after me.
Okay, so I kind of a weigh in with my CPTSD. I do an exercise called Flash because I was having a lot of problems um, falling in and out of my meditation sequencing. Either I wouldn't be able to come back and be like, I would be groggy afterwards, or I wouldn't be able to sit for it. And I made it, I guess it would be kind of a tether. Um, I have a safe place in my brain that just kind of stays there and waits for me to need it. And it's an actual physical place. So if I get to a point where I start to feel a little bit dissociated, or I start to feel a little bit lost or something like that, I will find a path to that rock, technically. And that is the way I've found that when I have panic attacks, or when I have meditation that I'm trying to tap into an specific issue that's going to be very emotionally charged or something like that, doing my shadow work, and I find something that's going to really trigger me, but I know that I need to meditate on it, and I know I need to figure out what the best way to deal with it is. I feel like I need that safe space, just like you would have a physical safe space. I need that in my mind. And I know not everybody does, but that's just kind of the way my brain works. So for me, I think Marie is next.
Oh, okay. Let me lower this. Okay. Tethers. This is a really great topic because I intentionally use tethers in my practice, and like navigating my lived experience. It really helps me when I'm doing things like that are overstimulating. I've talked about using tethers when I go like out grocery shopping. I'll bring someone familiar with me so I can tether to their energy, and so my attention is on them and not on everything that's going on around me, where that's where my attention would be if I was there by myself. Does that make sense? So that is a tether as well. A tether is created by your attention in some way. It has to do with your attention. And when we're talking about like training in astral projection and stuff like that, because anyone that's done research in astral projection, they've heard this like silver thread analogy that you need to have some kind of tether to your physical body. You have to remember that we will all have a different experience of this. That silver tether, as soon as that is communicated to you, your brain creates a neural pathway that says this is the way that it is, right? Before that neural pathway is created, it is completely uniquely your own, right? It exists. The silver thread just gives you something to like project into that. Does that make sense, guys? And then there is projected fear about it. That if you don't intentionally create this tether, you're going to be lost forever in the ethers or whatever, right? This approach doesn't take into consideration your entire guides and team of on the other side that is helping you through all of this. It doesn't take into consideration your natural magnetic attraction to your physical body, because there's this symbiote, you are incarnated, and it is the doubt in that incarnation that creates that problem. Do you see that? So when, like, does that make sense to you guys? That the doubt is the problem. The fear is the problem. It's not that you inherently like have to create this thing. It's already there. That's the difference between a control-based and a connection-based relationship with this. Part of the way that you experience your incarnation. Tethers are also, this is another really great example of these abstract ideas and that we take these things literally. So in the case of like spiritual psychosis, those tethers are the relationships that you cultivate with those that like keep you in check. Those you intentionally surround yourself with people that question you, that are like, hey, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you okay? Like, where is this coming from? Those kinds of things. It's when you don't have that support, and you create an echo chamber for yourself, that you get lost in that spiritual psychosis thing. So that's, and this is something that I've got a lot of training. This is where the initiation into functioning as a high priestess comes, and we are taught to have these tethers. Otherwise, you get into this like shit gets real weird when you don't have anyone questioning you or pushing back. So that is a tether. Do you see that? It's a tether to reality, a check and a balance. In a lot of ways, my physical pain is a tether for me, because I can pop into an astral experience and never come back until my physical pain brings me back, or I'm hungry, or I'm thirsty, or I'm having some kind of physical experience. And this is one of the reasons why it's so good to cultivate that healthy relationship with your physical body, because they do communicate and keep you in balance here. We often look at these like the experience of pain, the experience of hunger as an inconvenience to us, when it's actually a part of our experience that keeps us in balance, right? So physical pain can be a tether as well. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it is difficult. Yes, it is challenging. Yes, it adds another whole layer to our experience, but most witches experience chronic pain in some way. Most of us do. Headaches, like most of us experience chronic pain in some way. So, and there's a reason why. And it's not because you're broken or there's something wrong with you. Okay. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh God, I don't know how to translate back into the woo to the real. Maybe it's the other side of the coin of that. But I was thinking and going back to the meditation piece, and maybe it is the other side of that coin, from the spiritual to the mundane. But just on the meditative piece, when you were talking about Renee on the dissociation part and with the CPTSD, you know, with the trauma, it wasn't safe to be present and it wasn't safe to be in our bodies and it wasn't safe to be real and here and now. And so we get these other realms that we go to escape, but now we're adults and we can be present. And now we're trying to be present and we're trying to da 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 da. So when I said suck on a lemon, like I literally mean like a warhead lemon head is one of the greatest ways to be present because, and I hope I don't get on a soapbox, but I will for a minute, but your parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest and relax, and it's the oxytocin and it's back with the tribe. And if you have food and if you're eating and digesting and if you're salivating, then your body is like, oh, I'm back in the cave, I'm back with my tribe, I'm eating, I must be safe, there must not be a bear. And it calms and relaxes you. And so if you literally have spit in your mouth, then you're not freaking out. Like it puts the brake pedal on. Whereas you're freaking out, the adrenaline goes, the fight or flight goes, the, you know, freaking out other side of it goes. And so if you can get your mouth to salivate, so a warhead, the sour candy, or eating, you know, you're using that as the, we call it like an anchor in mindfulness instead of a tether, but like an anchor, like a sailor's anchor that's dropping you in. Sour candy is a really heavy anchor into the present moment because it makes you salivate, and it's really hard not to pay attention to sour, right? Exactly. That's why you have a dry mouth, because your salivatory glands literally stop, your digestion stops, you can't pee, you can't poop, and then afterwards you shit yourself and you piss yourself. Sorry, but you do. Like the bear scares the piss out of you, right? So there's this whole physiological thing that happens when your fight or flight stuff happens. And so if you can like hack the system and get yourself to have warm water in your mouth or chew gum or eat, like those are really heavy anchors. And a lot of times people say like meditate by following your breath, but that's like the lightest, softest anchor to hold on to ever. So like sour candy, holding ice, walking, because like you'll fall over and, you know, run into a tree. Like walking, sour candy, ice, food, those are really heavy anchors that help ground you into the present moment more so than just following your breath or like visualizing a pretty thing or whatever. Like it's harder to dissociate if you're holding on to ice or sucking on sour candy or whatever. Anyways, sorry, that's my soapbox. I'm dead now.
Renee, you can go ahead.
Yes, I love that. The worst place to disassociate is the car when you're driving, which has happened to me before, and I have to pull the car over and I'm like, what am I? Do I even exist? What is this thing? Like, where is my mind? You know? And when Jen Marie was talking about like having a tether in the grocery store, I used to have a really hard time with grocery stores, and I would start having like mild anxiety attacks in grocery stores, and I would go to the produce section and I'd be like, I'm touching a lime, I'm touching a grapefruit, you know, like just talk to myself, you know, about like the present. I'm kind of just falling forward and fumbling my way through these things. So I really appreciate tools. Thank you, everyone. Maria.
So when I get in the car too, I say to myself, like, okay, you have to pay attention to the road. It's important to keep yourself safe and everyone safe. Like, cause driving is like super fucking meditative. Like, so I'm like, I do like the shower, the car. But one thing in case it helps you. So like my flavor of neurodivergent is where if I have like music on in the background, it helps me focus. Specifically for the car though, and the audiobooks have helped me so much. So I just wanted to add that thing in case that helps you.
Yeah, that's funny. I tell people this all the time and they don't understand, but witches will understand. Like, if you're playing music, I'm going to be paying attention to it. Like, it's never like background noise for me. Like, if there's music on, my brain is just like like focused on the music. It is especially like amplified in the car by a million times, but yeah, my husband doesn't get it because he likes to put on like blast music when he's doing chores. And to me, yeah, music's never background noise. Like, I'm always paying attention to it. I'm picking it apart and listening to chord changes, and I listen to all the words. Like, people that don't listen to words in music, I'm like they're listening to the opposite of what I listen to, because a lot of music I listen to it specifically for the words, and it's not necessarily technically the best singers or musicians, but they just have the best lyrics and message, that I click with. But music's a huge thing, so I'm gonna moot. I can I can tell you guys I can tell everyone the a person that I know that kind of I wasn't the one that proposed this idea, but it's kind of an idea like our friend group has kind of mulled around, which is someone that I went to college with. Like, it seemed like he had a total psychotic breakdown, and um seemed very bipolar. He seemed schizophrenic, but he's not, and he's not like that now. And one of my friends told me, they're like, was he was doing kundalini and he took it too far too fast, and like it fried his brain. Basically, that was the um kind of explanation I was giving for why he was acting so wacky. And the thing is, he did like come out of it, so he's not schizophrenic, but yeah, he had really bizarre behavior. And so I've always and I don't know if that's even a real thing or not, but has anyone ever heard of that? Like, someone taking something too far and just like, is that the magical psychosis, kind of, when they're like super buying into their own bullshit, kind of? You know what I mean? Like, to the point where they like lose touch with reality. Is that, maybe? I don't know. Okay. Petra.
Hi, team. I'm in our new house, and I also tried to catch a kettlebell this morning with my foot. I didn't break it, which is impressive. It is very swollen and sore. But I wanted to just affirm what you're saying, Renee. That is something that I like when I took my Reiki training. That's something that my Reiki teacher at the time talked about, was basically like one of the reasons I took Reiki with her was that like we did everything over like 8 weeks, and lots of times Reiki is just like a weekend thing. Hi, Wit. um and then you get the thing, but if you don't allow time for like different energetic kind of alignments or awakening or attunements or whatever to like integrate, you can experience spiritual psychosis. And it is like more often. I'm going to do this because I have morning light. Hey, there we go. That's easier to see me. It's then it's easy to like lose connection with reality. It's usually like temporary, but it's one of those reasons why like I heard about the Kundalini awakening from other people as well, that it's just like it's something that can either you can have someone do to you, and that's sometimes more likely to cause you to kind of lose, because it can happen really quickly. Whereas if you like are doing it at your own pace and your body is setting the pace, then you're more likely to like have it integrate like what would that be, kind of like organically. That's the word I'm looking for. So I just wanted to contribute that because I was like, yeah, there are, as someone who's seen people who are like in florid psychosis, and have like psychotic disorders, like those don't tend to generally just like go away. Like it's not transient, like unless sometimes I should say, people who have like drug induced psychosis stuff that can happen. So if people experiment with like too many psychoactive drugs, specifically like uppers, or so like cocaine or other things like that, and then kind of like sometimes that can happen with like LSD or mushrooms, or those kind of, when you mix cocktails of things and you just like light up too much stuff in the brain at the same time, and then the brain's usual kind of coping mechanism is like, what? And then like disconnect from reality because it's like it's overwhelmed. And that doesn't, sometimes those things can like remain after the drug trip, and then people have these kind of like little bits and bobs that stay, and sometimes they can also like go away slowly. But with people who have like how do I put this? Sorry, my brain is still being like, your foot hurts, your foot hurts, your foot hurts. So my focus is difficult. With people who have, I would say the trend would be for people who have like psychosis as a function of like genetics or like very early trauma. Those things are generally more persistent over time and usually require like medications and things like that to augment them. They're more like they have to be managed rather than they resolve on their own. Like, but that's also not impossible because most things with human beings are just trends, right? So it's like, this is how it happens most of the time, but everybody's allowed to break the rules. Does that make sense? I think it does. Yes, I'm going to add something to the chat for a different topic because I have a question, but I will leave it to whoever. I think it's either Maria or Maya is next.
Is it me?
Yes.
Okay. So I kind of have a story that I kind of, oh my God, I forgot the word that we were just talking about, where you kind of dip out from reality for a bit.
Disassociation.
Kind of.
Okay.
The psychosis. There you go. My brain got there eventually. So I was doing some recreational mushrooms and took way too much, and like I didn't realize my own like mental strength yet, and like I was not very good mental health wise at the time either, which I didn't take into consideration. And like I said, took way too much, and my best friend was there with me, and I created like this whole pocket dimension type thing that was solely like my own self torture. And my friend who was tripping with me saw me create this whole thing and like watched it all go down. And it was like I lived 3 months within this trip within like 8 hours or something like that. And like I could see the sun go up and down and up and down, and I was going on my day to day, but it was just very twisted and demented. And so once I finally got out of it, thankfully, it took me about 6 months to be able to really differentiate real and not real, because I would like in the trip I would be going to work and like driving home. So like on the drive home from work, I would be like, am I still tripping? Or is this real? Like I don't know. So it was a really scary time. But my familiar actually came during that time. So my like reminder, my tether was her. Because I was like, she was not there when I took these, like when I took the mushrooms. So if she's here, and she wasn't there during the trip. So if she's here now, this has to be real. And so that was my constant reminder. And after like 6 months of like repetitively working on myself and getting myself better, it finally, I'm okay now. But even like a year after the fact, there were moments where I was like, whoa, what's real? Okay, we're good. We're back. So it's very scary to be so disconnected in that way. And I definitely would not recommend it if that wasn't clear. So yeah, that's my story.
Thank you for sharing that, Maya.
Yeah.
I think I just wanted to say, and it's funny because as I raised my hand, I think Chantel popped in with a comment in the chat, um, just around like the fear and this, mm, the conversations that we're having right now has like so many layers and have like so like complexities, but it's very like individualized, basic. I feel like very individualized on kind of like some of it on your belief system, and some of it is just where you're at and what your comfortability is. And, kind of that fear can play into things. And so, when we're kind of talking about these things, this is just coming from me, is my belief and my recommendation that if fear is coming up for you, you know, it is kind of something to just pause, look at it from more of an inquisitive perspective, maybe go down the rabbit hole and learn more about it, you know, because yeah. And like for me, I'm not fearful of going into a spiritual psychosis of like astral traveling or doing any of that. I'm not fearful of it. I I'm confident that, I can engage in those practices and that I'm still very much here in touch with reality, and can come back from it. Um, but it does happen. I mean that, like the spiritual psychosis, it is a real thing. I just don't, yeah, so I just feel like it's important to be inquisitive, to use discernment about what you feel you want to engage with, who you want to engage with. Um, and it's another reason why shadow work is so important. It's why shadow work is an important part of our practice in Bright and Dark, because sometimes starting out with really just digging into that shadow work helps to repair your relationship with yourself, with your intuition, and really what you feel you're most aligned with. And I think then kind of then engaging that can help you to kind of sort out how you want to engage on more of the woo stuff. And so I just say that because I don't, because I know that fear can come into it. And so I just encourage you to, like, if that is coming up for you, to like maybe engage your shadow work with it, reach out for more conversation on it with trusted people who can use discernment. Um, and yeah, that's all. I hope that's helpful. So I know Petra has a topic change, but Chantel, because I mentioned you, I wanted to maybe give you a chance to respond.
Good morning. Hi. Um, Hopefully the internet works this time. I just, I don't know, I thought I'd share that quick experience. Um, when I brought up the astral travel, whatever, last week, I think I was asking for permission to not be afraid. And so when it came up this morning, I kind of felt a bit blindsided for a second, like, was there something I was supposed to be, whatever, afraid of, da da da. And so it brought up just this massive, massive like, wave of fear. And then I went into the fear, and I think it, for me, this is all just like that. Hi. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Yeah. So anyway, I just think maybe for me it didn't come up this way last week so that I had a chance to sit with it for myself and not not get into all of this, because last week this would have I wouldn't have coped with this last week. And so I think that yeah, it was kind of cool to be in it now, like kind of after I've had some time to sit with it for myself. So thank you everyone for sharing. That's all.
Thank you, Chantel.
Petra.
Petra.
Arranged. I was like, I'm gonna lay down with my foot up for a second. And sorry to anyone I'm like moving around and giving motion sickness to. Just like all the things for my desk are like somewhere. And my chair kind of got a little banged up. So I have to fix a wheel before I can sit on it. So we're making do. What I wanted to I also, yeah, before I start with my little question, I just wanted to echo like what Maria said about, and I think I've brought this up a couple times when spiritual psychosis has come up, where as someone who like actually has like assessed people for psychosis, I have a lot of experience and like what someone fully disconnected from reality, like not only like looks like in terms of assessment, but like feels like body to body, like, and it's very different. And I think that it's really hard because I mean we've talked about this before, that like when these things come up, just because of how like we all probably carry some level of generational trauma with regards to like people being put in like insane asylums or like ostracized because of mental illness or being weird or whatever, like all of this mental health stigma related and ableism related violence like lives in all of our bodies. So we've all seen the consequences of like people being certified or put in straitjackets, or it's in horror movie tropes everywhere, right? Like there's enough content to kind of like, I would say like really solidify that like terror in the body of like what happens like if I'm fucked up, like I'm screwed, like with something terrible is going to happen. Like, and even as someone who has worked in healthcare, has worked in psychiatry, and also has had my own mental health stuff, like I've had to have those moments myself where it's like I'm very capable of being like, am I lucid or am I not? Like what is happening? And even this morning when I like threw the thing on my, like the kettlebell hit my foot, like I still had that moment of like, do I need to go get someone else to tell me that this is like no, I'm bearing weight solely on that foot, like it's not broken. Like, but it's that like the systemic factors can really affect how confident we feel in like our kind of perspectives on reality. And I think that that's the other piece, is that like something that's made me feel more comfortable is that there's no objective reality. It doesn't exist. It's a lie. We are 7-8 odd billion people on a planet, and we all have one perspective on reality that also shifts. So it is okay for things to change. It is okay to be uncertain. It is okay to be unclear. The difference between kind of like, am I disconnected or not, is often like, am I conscious of like, one, am I doing my everyday life things? Like, am I still able to like brush my teeth and feed myself and do all of those things? Because someone who's floridly psychotic does not do those things. They do not care. They are completely disconnected from reality and from the like the demands and pressures of a body that says, I need to eat now, I need to whatever now. It's very palpably different than someone who's like questioning truth. So I just wanted to say that, because it's like, also because truth isn't objective, that's a thing where it's like we all will go through layers of that with ourselves and with society. We've all are deconstructing it in different ways in different places, so that like those moments of like, what the fuck is even real or true anymore, like, are so normal. Like that existential kind of crisis stuff, as you deconstruct it spiritually, like, it doesn't go away. You just get more comfortable with it. Just FYI, it still stays. I think I thought a long time ago that I was like, maybe it'll like, I'll figure it out eventually. And the answer to that is like, no, you won't. You'll just get more comfortable with the unknown. Like, that's just really the thing. And the knowing everything out there becomes significantly less of a priority the more that you know in here, because you realize that like, that's the thing that you're bringing forth into your life and into things, is like understanding yourself. It's like, we rely less on society to tell us who we are when we know who we are internally. So I just wanted to kind of share that piece as kind of a piece of encouragement and just a reflection of like, you know, if you're cognizant enough to be like, am I psychotic? The chances are absolutely not. Just saying, like, never had a psychotic patient be like, am I completely disconnected from reality? They're just like, I am Batman. Like, that is like, they are there. It's like full method. That's where they are. And you cannot shake them from it. And so it's like the curiosity and the questioning in and of itself, to me, is often just a reassurance of like, yeah, you're probably fine. Like, you know, like, and obviously at any point in time, if you're ever concerned, go see a doctor about it. Like, go see someone or do your own research, or like, you know, check in with people who see you in your everyday life and be like, do I seem like I'm like kind of out of it? Or like, what do you think? Like, can we have a conversation? Can you help me understand myself a bit better? There are various ways to like get support for that. So, okay. Pivoting. So I wanted to know if anybody else, so I moved into a new house. I didn't cleanse it yet, because like life has been banana pants, just been like surviving and just trying to get all the stuff from the other place. And I usually do like a Reiki cleanse of things. And so, and this is just really funny. So last night I smelled cigarette smoke in the house, and like I smelled the vents. There was none there. There was none outside. It was just like, and my husband couldn't smell it. And I was like, it's just me. And I just thought I was like overtired, because I'm very tired. This past 2 weeks have been bonkers. And then this morning, was the thing that tipped me, that I was like, this is interesting, is that I smelled burning sweetgrass, which is a very specific smell, like a very specific smell. And it was in the kitchen, and it was like, again, Bradley couldn't smell it. Like, no one else could smell it. It wasn't in the vents. I went outside, doesn't smell like that outside. Like, usually when people are burning stuff, you can just smell it. And I like went to the front, went to the back, went to whatever. And I was just like, then I had this moment, I was like, I think we have ghosts. Like, and there's somebody hanging out. But I don't experience a lot of clear aliens. Like, I usually don't smell stuff. Like, I see and hear and other things, but it would make sense with how like kind of preoccupied my physical body is and my brain is and all that stuff, that like this glare would be kind of like coming forward, because it's like kind of, you can't ignore it or be distracted from it, because you're like, what is this smell? Like, it's just very like, I almost like instinctive, right? Especially things that smell like smoke. Our brains are like wired to be like, find it, because things burning down is bad. Like, and so I wanted to just kind of open up the floor. Like, I'm not concerned about it. Like, nothing feels like malevolent or anything like that. And like, I'm, you know, I wouldn't, I just always find we in new place, like there's bound to be somebody, you know, hanging out. And I'm also not of a like banish the things. I'm always just a like, you can stay, you have to behave though. Like, enough of this like making things smell or making sounds. I don't care. Like, I get it. The juju is good in here. Like, the energy is good. Like, I know what I bring to the table, but also like, stop bothering me. Like, that's all. These are my boundaries. Like, I don't care what you do. Just leave me alone. Because that happened in our old house that used to be like the site of the first hospital in town. So there was like, obviously a lot of people had died, and there were like little spooky sounds that happened all the time, but the dogs would stay asleep. And I was like, obviously it's nothing like sketchy, because to me, my litmus test is like, if your animals wake up, like, then you have a fucking problem, because like they can tell. And if they don't, you're gravy. Like it's just like general silliness and like mischief and whatever. But I wanted to say, like, has anybody else had experiences of like smelling, like more like the Claire Aliens piece, or and like how has that been for you? Or also like spirits or ghosts or things in your home and like how you've dealt with them or how that's kind of affected you. I just thought it was like, this is an interesting topic and it's completely pertinent because like, this just happened to me today. So anyway, I wanted to leave that open. I don't know who is first, so I'm going to leave it to somebody else who is grown up to pick.
Isabel is up next.
Thank you. So, Petra, I wanted to thank you for what you initially said. It makes a lot of sense, and it somehow soothes me so much. I needed to hear that this week, but I just didn't know how to verbalize it earlier on in the week to say, this is what I need. But sometimes we kind of need somebody else to tell us, you know what, if you're not going crazy, this could happen. But, and it ties on with your second remark. I know ladies have heard me say within this past weeks that I've been going through something in my daughter's new home. And so going back and forth to her house and staying there with her, it's been challenging because, well, it hasn't ceased. And in fact, it doesn't feel good. It's more of an energy. I can't, say the footsteps or the little noises. Those don't have me concerned. It's the feeling that does. I can't pinpoint it. It just feels like, it's not a good energy. I've been around that before, and that does not feel good. And it's in one particular spot, like not spot, in a particular room. And so from going back and forth from her place to mine, I flared up crazy, and I think my system just said I need a break from this because my nervous system was crashing. And it's not because they're not hearing it. They're hearing the footsteps, but they're not feeling what I feel. And the cats don't like it, aside from the fact that I know the cats have killed it twice. I'm not saying it's the same one or it's what's going on. And this is where I started feeling like, okay, I'm losing it maybe. But at nighttime, when there's a lot of ruckus in the room, I know it's the cats. They come in and sleep with me, but they're always wary. And when I turn on the lights, it's a black moth, and it's always there. And I'm pretty sure they killed it one day because I saw the smearing on the wall. I couldn't find it, but I saw the smear. It was just getting to me, and I thought I need a break from all of this because it's getting the best of me. They're okay. They're sleeping on the ground floor. I've tried just about everything that was suggested. So that's just when my daughter said, just to cross everything that we could do, let me bring in a priest, but the priest doesn't want to go. And so I thought, okay, let me try something. Let me just continue to try. We're just going to have to continue to try. And my daughter says that prior to buying her house, she did do her homework. She went to City Hall. She went to try to find out the history. Nothing that she could find out. However, last Sunday, one of the neighbors said, oh, my daughter wanted to buy that house, but she stepped in the house and she decided right away that, nope, it's not for her. She didn't want to say why. So I leave it at that. It's unresolved business. And I think that's what triggered all of my flare-ups with all of my autoimmune systems. Yeah, I'm in there with you, Petra. If there's anybody out there who can suggest what else to do, I am so open to it because I don't, we kind of feel it turned a really good experience, and it's little at a time making it a sad experience because they were so excited with their new home, and it's just putting a bad taste to where they know that if they have guests in that room, they might feel it too. And the fact that the cats don't like it, the cats are not acting, especially one of them, the one that got sick. And anyway, so yeah, we're kind of fed up of that. And it all happened within that one span of this one first month of them having this new home. So yeah, thank you for that, Petra. But yeah, I am with you there. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Maya, I have you up next if you want to go ahead.
Sure. So now I have two things. So I have quite a bit of experience with spirits and those have passed on from a very young age. But the first thing I wanted to share was when I first moved in with my best friend, we cleansed the house together because we were both in our practice and like merged our practices together. And I was in the kitchen one day and I was cooking and I went and turned and I saw like a middle-aged man, probably in his like 40s, pop around the corner, say house on fire. And I knew he wasn't alive, right? Like the spidey senses were tingling. And then he said house on fire and then disappeared. Just beep boop. And I freaked out and I was like, oh fuck no, you are not playing games in my house, and literally chased this spirit around the house, and all I could hear was like a man laughing, like it was a joke. And my best friend came out of her room and was like, what's going on? Why are you freaking out? And I told her and she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell you. Yeah, he checks in on me every once in a while. And the running joke that our family always had with him was that he would just randomly pop into a room and say, house on fire, and then walk out to see if anybody like reacts or freaks out. And like, that's his thing. That's just him checking up on me. And I was like, girl, you need to give somebody a heads up because I was losing my mind. I got boundaries, and one of them is not scaring the shit out of me. So you needed to make that clear before we moved in together. She's like, I totally forgot. It's only every once in a while. I'm so sorry. But because of what that was a funny story. But because of what Isabel was saying in her struggles, I'm not sure what you have tried, and I saw some of the suggestions, but the way that I cleanse my home is I first go around the home with whatever like protective incense that I'm feeling at the time, and set my intentions with anything that is already living there that is unseen, if that makes sense. And so I let it be known what my boundaries are and who can stay and who has to get out. And I am firm and I don't move on that. And I go around the whole house and every single little crevice, every single room, every drawer, every cabinet, the refrigerator, even, because you never know. You never know. They just pop in there. I don't know. And then I go around again with a more intention based herbs or like incense and set my intentions for the homes. And it's always like loving, peaceful vibes for everyone who comes in and everyone who lives here, to just keep that positive energy going. And I like to do that every solstice, just to do the real refresh, not the first cleansing, but the second one, the intention base, just to update the house, give it a little cleanse, because sometimes our energy gets drained and like some negative pops in within our own selves and it seeps into the home. So I just like to do a little refresh, you know? So yeah, that's what I do. I don't, Renee, I think you're next.
I was gonna say I have like a terrible sense of smell, but I was gonna tell Petra the first time. Well, I mean, so here's what happened. I was just do in my kitchen doing my dishes, and I could smell smoke intensely, and which is not super unusual because I live out in the boondoggles and people have, wood stoves and have bonfires and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, what happened was, like, I think first you go to like the mundane explanation, right? So I was like, I'm having a stroke. Like, I was like, because it was so intense. I was like, I'm having a stroke. I'm having a stroke. Um, and then it gave me like a full blown panic attack where I like fell down on the ground. And then I ended up going to the hospital later because I completely like I just like side of my face went numb. I didn't have a stroke. They said it might have been a migraine because I have really bad migraines that make weird stuff happen, but like weird, like different weird stuff that happens with migraine usually. But so now every once in a while, if I smell a phantom smell, it gives me anxiety. Like, because I mean, I kind of flash back to um that thing. But yeah, I think smelling though, I think smelling ghosts, for lack of a better term, is really common. I actually have a book the whole book is the weird smells that have occurred with when people have like a cryptid sighting or an alien sighting or like a ghost encounters, whatever. The whole book is just details reports of smells. It's really fun. I'll put it on the Facebook page. And the author's actually a good author because I've read another one of his books, um but uh I know everyone here probably, when someone has something weird happen to them, they come tell you, like, you can fix it for them, right? Or like you're gonna understand, or you're gonna not, you're gonna believe them, you're not gonna make fun of them or whatever. um and the things I've had people tell me the most frequently are smells. And I had a friend who's like a construction worker, and they were building a hospital, but there was a house that was torn down, like where their kind of job trailer was. And he said every night at the same time he'd hear like a lighter flick, and then he'd hear someone inhale, and then there'd just be like a cloud of cigarette smoke that would, blow onto him. And he was the only person there around, and it happened every night. So it is interesting that smells are definitely like a major thing. I think probably more so even than like visual, um because that's, in my experience, pretty rare. But yeah, so I'm just kind of blathering on. Maria, please rescue me.
I was like chuckling to myself because I'm like, geez, we're doing like all this shadow work, maybe like the spirits also need some shadow work, like, when they're causing a ruckus, or, like maybe there's just like some shit that they need to work through. And so hopefully someone on the other side is taking care of that. If not, somebody get on that spirit. Someone's got to, in the spirit land's got to be good at that, helping, do some shadow work over there. Um, the part in terms of like the stuff too people are bringing up, and like with Isabel feeling what you're experiencing, I don't necessarily have any other like things in terms of the whatever's going on at the house, but it's more for you is when we kind of reach that point. It's kind of like going into the self-care, have we gotten enough sleep? Have we fed our body? Have we drank enough water today? Because anything that, you're doing is that, like you said, putting out that energy. And so it's really more of like the mundane of like remembering the self, the self kind of care part of it. And when we are entering things that we know are going to be energetically taxing, yeah, just doing that connection with your body and like what your body might need, whether that, like I said, that's rest, food, um, hydration. Um, so for that piece of it, that's what came up for me. Petra, like, so one of the ways I love, for me personally, I'm getting away from, uh, the idea of like needing to cleanse a space. For me is I'm like engaging with it more of like it's an energetic reset. um and that's only because I'm very deep into uh the rabbit hole of deconstructing good and bad and good and evil and things like that, and so that's just where I'm at. And so for me, music I love because that's like a uh for me it's like I can do like five things at once, which like that's great for me. Uh like so like music and a little bit of dancing where and it's usually like an 80s Whitney or Mariah is like my vibe with that, because it's music that I feel joy. um and so that's the energy that I'm bringing to the space. The music is like joyful, and also like if I'm dancing I'm getting the endorphins and I'm moving my body. So it like covers so many facets of like my health and wellness and also energetically. So music for me is like I love smoke and I love doing more of the woo. I mean I'm always about the woo. So like never not. But like I also just love music because I feel like it's kind of like the catch-all and can just do like, for me it does so much for the space. Like if I'm gonna, after I've like played a song that I really love, like the air just feels different to me, and same thing sometimes. And on the other side of that, sometimes I want to cry and I feel sad. And so there's music for that too. Um, but I love the music. So like, especially moving into a new house, like just having a big old dance party, and maybe that spirit will like, join in with you too. And then lastly, with the smelling, um, it's definitely not a Claire that I like engage with a lot for whatever reason, but the one like prominent time that I can remember, it was the dead of winter. I was driving, it was very slippery, and I was in my car and I smelled fresh cut roses, which is like it was actually a Yankee candle. And this candle, there were two candles that were lit in my great grandmother's room. And I smelled this Yankee candle smell, which was like roses, and I said my great grandmother's name. And then like couple minutes later, a car like slid into the back of me. And it was very minor, like nobody got hurt. But so to me, I always interpreted as like when I smelled like that was like just supportive. And I was like, oh, like thank you so much for like being here with me because I'm by myself, car slid into me, and like I felt like my great grandmother was just there like as a support, like for me to like, deal with the storm and stuff like that. So that was just one cool experience that I had with it. That like it was just one of those like moments that is like it's just really memorable. Um and with the guidance too, like sometimes smells, and like I do, I think spirits too can like will communicate sometimes in a way that's familiar to them. But with the signs and things that we get, for me it's always, that's kind of what, going back to like when we say your interpretation is like the most important, because I feel like guides are going to communicate with you because they want you to get the message. So they're going to do, or spirits or whoever the entities out there, you know, they, especially if it's guides though, because I feel like they want you to get the message and they're gonna do it in a way that you're going to get it. And so it's like in a way that's most familiar to you. So like what fresh cut roses means to me might mean something different to you. But for me now, I always gonna associate that with like my great grandmother. So anyways, it's interesting. And I love the conversation today. Thank you. Isabel, back to you.
Thank you, Maria. So you said something that kind of like poked at me in a positive way, that while I kept coming back to my home was to get a respite from being in that energy. Although I wasn't, and I'm not afraid still, except, okay, I have to say one night I was, but I don't go into her house, or I purposely stay in that room because I kind of want to, and I've said it out loud, like, we don't mean any harm. We're going to inhabit here with you. I'll take care, like, we're going to take care of the property the way you once did, or what. We've had different conversations out loud, but it hasn't been that of fear, except when I've come back home. I keep having nightmares with The Exorcist, and the why I tied it to that was because when I was sick, I don't know if I was 5 or 6, but my mom took me to see The Exorcist, but she told me she was taking me to see Snow White. And funny that she only took me, not my siblings. Not that I would have wanted them to experience that ever, but she only took me. And so I remember closing my eyes and jumping and being frightened, and her not even caring. She, at no point, I remember that at some point I did pee in my pants, and I was afraid, and she got upset because she had to go out to clean me, and she didn't say at any point, well, let's go home, this is not the movie, or I don't know. But the reason why I tie it to this is because it's the fear of the unknown, what's going to pop up next. And so all along in her place, I kept feeling like, okay, somebody passed, and probably they're just saying like, oh, new people. But as we've been trying to do all this cleansing and trying to reassure that we don't mean any harm, or we're not going to demolish, or we're not even changing the structure of the home, anything. But the signs are all still there. They don't cease. So now it was kind of building up. Now it's just building up inside of me, because it's not building up in the home. Like, it's not getting worse, it's staying the same. Not getting better, but it's not getting worse. So I think the whole anxiety, yes, it is within me, of feeling like, oh, what's going to happen next, And I think, yeah, taking some time, maybe I just don't show up for a while, just to take care of my own psyche, my own mental health, my own spirit, my own house within, so that when I do go back, I feel stronger again. And who knows, even by then, maybe it ceased. I just haven't wanted to leave my daughter alone because my son-in-law was on a business trip. But yeah, so yeah, those two things were helpful. Kind of, it's so simple, but having somebody else tell you, take care of yourself, because you're the grown-up. You tell others to take care of themselves, but sometimes you forget to take care of your own self. So thank you. Oh, I'm
Petra,
sorry, I
you're
don't
up
know who's next.
Yeah, Petra's up next. You can go ahead, Petra.
Whoa. Was it working? I was like, I don't know what's happening. Can you guys hear me or see me? Okay, perfect. Oh, I'm just pulled away from me. I was like, why can't I see my face? What have I done? There we go. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I just wanted to really quickly be like, with this as well, just when you were talking about all the things that you were doing, Isabel, I was like, and I think that this is often the instinct. So I just want to validate that, like, that approach is not wrong. It's like what it's mostly presented as, is that often when people kind of talk about spiritual precepts and things like that, and like what to do when you cleanse, and like what you're supposed to tell the spirits and all the things, it's that like they start off by being like, say these things, do these things. Like, it's very like you do the things at the things instead of a conversation. And so I'm just curious if whenever you feel ready, because I think that that's also important, is like when you feel ready and safe and restored, and like you feel like you feel grounded and safe enough in your body to go back, is I wonder if going to the place and asking a question instead might elicit a different response. Like being like, hey, what are you afraid of, or what do you want, or how can we support you, or what do you need? Like a more relational approach instead of a directive approach might be received differently. It was just a thought, and it could be totally wrong, so it's like if it doesn't fit or doesn't feel good, just chuck it. But not but and I think often with these things, like we forget that corporeal or not, so having a body or not, this is a being. Like they were probably a person or something physical at one point in time. And so it's like, how would I, like, if I moved into someone else's house and they were like, hey, I have issues with this, but it had to happen or whatever, I would probably start a conversation, a dialogue, versus tell them like, it's going to be okay. It's what, because like that doesn't feel validating, right? Often where it's like, oh, like if someone's just like, oh no, you don't have any concerns. It's totally fine. Everything's fine. We're, like when someone's trying to assume what you need to hear to feel safe instead of ask. That was just the thought that I was like, I wonder if that's part of this. And that's maybe why the signs are still whatever, because it's like maybe the conversation hasn't gone in a bi-directional fashion. And I know that you are intuitive and connected enough to definitely be able to interpret whatever that conversation would look like. So I just wanted to like put that forward. And I think it's Jen Marie is next.
I'm working on it, guys. I went mobile and I'm outside with the puppies. Okay, so I have kind of an unconventional approach to this kind of thing, right? Being in places that your system's not vibing with, right? For whatever like reason. And I don't mean for this to be pokey, but it might be pokey to some. We don't belong everywhere. Just because we like own something doesn't mean it belongs to us, right? And it doesn't mean that we automatically have a say in what is there. And that when we get somewhere that we're able to like clean the slate and banish everything and get rid of everything, and we get to start our life however we want to in this space. Like there's so much to that. And it's, oh man, and it's such a big part of how we are taught to engage with the spirit world. We're taught to, blast, cleanse things and to banish entities that we are uncomfortable with, right? But the truth is that these beings have their own thing going on that has nothing to do with us. And so how we approach them matters. How we approach them is a reflection of our relationship with our magic. And I had a dream a few years ago that really, that it feels relevant to this. I had a dream that I was called to this hotel that was being haunted by this terrifying little demon child. And they had called priests in and they had called all these people in to try and get rid of this like entity that is absolutely terrorizing everyone that's there. And nothing's working. And I get there and I'm watching all of this engagement, these like, I banish you and I demand that you leave and all of these things. And what I realized
is that what is needed is not rejection. What is needed is connection. And so what I did is I walked up to this terrifying little demon child and I got on my knees and I opened my arms and I talked to it and engaged with it as the medicine that they need, not necessarily in the way that they were engaging with those around, right? And that there wasn't a banishment that was needed. There was an understanding and a communication that needed to happen. And when we go into and when we like choose to live in certain places that there's that kind of stuff happening, what I do is, first of all, I don't choose to live in places that aren't in alignment with my system. If my system is rejecting it in some way, that means I need more data collection. That doesn't necessarily mean that I need to move in there and cleanse it or change it. I also don't go closing portals that are open, right? I don't go opening portals that are closed. I use the whole like when you're walking through a farmland, right? You close gates that are closed, and you don't fuck with the gate system, because you don't know what's going on there. You don't know why it's open, what's going on. And to just assume that you do without like really doing a lot of research is like, where is that coming from? Right? So yes, like I don't doubt that there's something going on. And I trust your system about that. I trust that that you've what you're feeling and experiencing is very real. But I think that it's great advice to just sit back and really think about, take some time to rest and recoup, not so that you can engage in a battle again, but so that you can have the power to bring your system present enough to be able to accurately assess what's going on and why your medicine is being brought to that situation, right? Because there's a reason. And I'm totally invested in this story now, by the way, Isabel. So I need some follow-up when you go back and start engaging, if you choose to.
If I can just quickly answer to that, you just blew my mind with what you said. So it was definitely pokey, but in the most positive and assertive way. I think it leaves a lot of reflection because, yeah, the kids, meaning my daughter and my son-in-law, they're hearing things, but they don't feel that negative. They don't feel what I'm feeling. They have seen the black moth in that room, and it's daily. It's been a month. It's been there, and they get rid of it, and or we think it's died, and every day, every night, it's there. So I have to somehow, some part of me wants to say that there's a reason, but it could just be coincidence. But definitely, maybe it's not even just them. Maybe it's something that I have to reason, not even reason with myself, but discern within myself what's going on, what's poking at me. Maybe there is an energy, but it's not necessarily negative. Maybe it's the energy that I didn't bring in a bad energy, but anyway, I'm taking in what you said as a big reflection. Stay away for a little while, reflect on it, and then go back, not to, which I wasn't trying to vanish since the beginning. I was just going in. We were just kind of, and we did ask, but yeah, I'm leaving today with a completely different sense and not feeling so anxious about it. because even just talking about it gave me so much anxiety, but it's kind of calming down with all of your words. So thank you for that. I pass it on to whomever's next.
I think Rebecca is next, and we have gone a little bit past our time. So, but Rebecca, is there something you want to add?
Yeah, it's a thought that I have had, like, as I've been listening to this story, about like this month's work that we're doing, like looking at this as if it's happening for you, not to you. Like, and Isabel, I sense that there's some work, like where it's bringing up some trauma with your mom and the exorcist, and that this is maybe offering something to you to look at and to heal. Yeah, and I think that's something that's, as the conversation has evolved, is kind of bringing this energy more. So I was just offering that.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Another great SASS Mass. And we'll wrap it up now. Enjoy the rest of your day.